All right, so get started. Once again, Maya Comontira on the bus priority team, here to give an update on the Minnesota Southeast Bus Priority Project. And before we get into the details, I want to give some background on the bus priority program. So it stems from the bus priority plan that was published in 2021. The goal of the program is to improve bus operations on various projects throughout the district. So we have plans for 51 projects, some that have already been implemented. So if you see red bus lanes or bus build-outs throughout the district, it's probably part of a bus priority project. And we do have a bus priority toolbox with various bus priority treatments. So as we do projects along different corridors, we look to that toolbox, and based on existing conditions, other safety needs, we apply bus priority treatments as needed. So some of those can include bus stop rebalancing, queue jumps, or curb extensions. As far as this project, all of these treatments are included. As far as project timeline, this project kicked off in 2022, and since then we've been developing concepts based off of public and community input. We've also done a lot of engagement with stakeholders, this being schools along the corridor, fire and emergency services, and also looking at existing conditions as well as coordination with the ANC. We finalized concept plans last fall, and so we're now in the design phase for this project with construction planned for 2026. And given the timeline of this project, with this kicking off in 2022, we're excited to get started on design so we can see some of these safety and bus improvements soon. So some general project overview. The image on the left is a photo of our bus priority network. So as you can see, there's various projects throughout the corridor. There are 3 bus priority projects along Minnesota Avenue. One has already been completed, and the other is on Minnesota Northeast, which is in planning. This specific project focuses on Minnesota Avenue from Pennsylvania Avenue to Marionberry Avenue. The project goals are to improve bus operations and also improve pedestrian safety. So some of the project elements are these bus priority treatments, some that I mentioned before, such as queue jumps, bus stop rebalancing, and then we also had various traffic calming and pedestrian safety installments proposed along the corridor. So some of the key project features. Although this is a bus priority project, safety is always at the core of every DDOT project. So there are bus improvement and safety elements included in this project. And when we were doing community engagements, there were various safety issues and bus operation issues that kind of came up for us to focus on in this project. Some of those being visibility issues. There are some intersections where it's hard to see cross traffic, or the intersection design is confusing with insufficient signal timing. One intersection that was specifically called out to us was Minnesota and 18th Street. We also got a lot of notes and comments about dangerous driving behavior along the corridor, especially with high speeds at unsignalized intersections. It was also noted that there's a lack of pedestrian safety, which is really important here since there are some really wide and angled crossings along Minnesota Avenue. And then just a general lack of bus stop amenities such as shelters or access to bus stops. So how this project addresses these issues by installing various traffic calming treatments. So this includes pedestrian islands, medians, curb extensions, also enhancing crosswalks by shortening some of these crossing distances and realigning them. Also the installation of RFBs so we can give pedestrians a stronger chance of crossing safely. And then there's also bus operation improvements such as stop consolidations, amenity redistribution, mainly shelters, and then a queue jump is proposed to lessen bus and traffic congestion while improving stop accessibility. And I do want to note that this project does not include bus lanes or bike lanes, and there's minimal parking impacts as part of this project. I'm sorry, was there a comment?
I was just putting some examples of RFPs in the project website in the chat.
Oh, okay, great, thank you. All right, so we'll just go over the concept plans. So these are various traffic calming and bus priority treatments along the corridor. This is Minnesota Avenue from 16th Street to 17th Street. So some of these plans include T intersections, and this is to reduce turning speeds and just expand the pedestrian zones. We're also proposing new crosswalks with pedestrian islands and RFBs. We have some centerline hardening proposed just to buffer the separation of lanes. And one thing that I do want to call attention to is this closure of S Street. This is to reduce vehicle conflict with cars and vehicles and buses as well, turning from Minnesota Avenue using this turn lane, but also directly from Minnesota Avenue. So this closure is proposed to minimize those conflicts. And here's an example of what this closure would look like. It would be with flex posts or also with these planters. It's something that we would like to try temporary with these materials to make sure it works for buses and general traffic and pedestrians as well. And this is an example from across the street closure at 2nd and North Carolina Avenue. So further along the corridor, this is the 18th Street intersection, which we have more detailed plans to show. But one of the things that we would do at this intersection would shift the existing westbound bus stop a few hundred feet west. And this is to make sure the buses can clear the intersection. Right now, when it services the stop, it is still in the crosswalk, which is unsafe for pedestrians and also bus passengers as well. So we would keep the shelter in its existing location, but just shift that bus stop a little bit to clear the intersection. We would also add a queue jump, and this is a signal for the bus to jump ahead in front of traffic for more efficient bus operations. There is an existing queue jump at the intersection of Minnesota Avenue and 22nd Street. So having both of these queue jumps should really improve bus speeds and reliability. Closer towards the end of the corridor at Nicholson and White Place, we have new pedestrian islands with crossing signage, which will be installed as part of the Pennsylvania Avenue, Minnesota Avenue intersection project. And then in front of Boone Elementary, we do have a curb extension proposed with some more pedestrian signage to have safer crossings to the school and just at that intersection in general. All right, and we did specifically want to highlight the plans for the 18th R and Minnesota Avenue Southeast intersection. This is an intersection that was brought up to us by the community, specifically the Fairlawn Citizen Association, about wanting to see some improvements here. Some of the concerns that were brought up to us were that the intersection movements are a bit confusing. There's unsafe crossing and definitely some major visibility issues and signal timing issues. So part of the plans include adding new stop bars. So this is to help reinforce where drivers should be stopping. And then we have two new crosswalks. One would be right at R Street in Minnesota. And then the other one would be this new angled crossing. And this is one where we saw that pedestrians are already making this movement. So we think it's helpful to install a crosswalk with the correct pedestrian signal, so that can be a safer movement. Some other items are these painted medians just to help clarify travel lanes. And then we'd also be extending the curbs and installing ADA compliant ramps. And then another thing that was brought up to us was that some of the signal timing, especially for the cross streets, doesn't allow efficient times for turns or movement. So we are looking at adjusting those signals as well. And then something that's already being addressed was that sometimes the trees are impacting the signals and visibility at the intersection. So there'll be ongoing pruning. And here's an example of what those crosswalks with the extended ADA curbs and ramps would look like. And here's an example of what some of the painted medians would look like. And as mentioned before, there's minimal parking removal as a part of this project. It is mainly daylighting at intersections. So these are areas where you already should not be parking, and they're already kind of signed and zoned as no parking. So it doesn't create a visibility issue for pedestrians crossing and also vehicles at the intersection as well. And then to talk about some of the specific best priority treatments outside of the queue jump, we are proposing consolidation of the 19th Street bus stops, and this is to reduce bus delay since these stops are pretty close. When looking at ridership, the Minnesota and 19th Street stops do have the lowest riderships among the stops along the corridor. So this is an opportunity to improve bus operations by consolidating that stop pair, and then we'll have the chance to relocate the existing shelters to some more high ridership stops along the corridor. One or two that we want to reallocate them to is one at Boone Elementary School, which has pretty high ridership, and then another one at Minnesota and 17th Street at the Triangle Park, which is another high ridership stop. And as mentioned before, there will be a new queue jump at the 18th Street intersection, and that'll work in companion with the existing one at 22nd Street. So as mentioned before, this project has moved into the design phase. We will issue an NOI at 65%, and that's anticipated summer 2025, and construction for this project is planned for 2026. And that concludes the presentation, and happy to go over any questions or any specific details about the project. And I believe if there are any questions, there's a feature to raise your hand so we can unmute.
I think Seth Grimes just asked, was there any consideration of dedicated bus lanes or bike lanes?
No, there was no consideration for bus or bike lanes in this project. For bus lanes specifically, this isn't a corridor where we looked at doing bus lanes. Although the B2, V2 are high frequency and high ridership routes, this really doesn't, this corridor doesn't really have the infrastructure set up for bus lanes. We do have existing bus lanes on MLK. So this kind of, all these buses travel to MLK, but this is an area where we would look at for dedicated bus lanes. Bike lanes weren't considered in this project as the focus was on bus, but there's no infrastructure in this project that prevents the possibility for bike lanes in the future. Any other questions? Trying to catch up on the comments. I see Commissioner Tom Donahue is on. I know you're a new Fairlawn commissioner. Did you have any specific questions about the project? All right. I mean, if not, these plans and the concept selection letter are posted to the best priority project page for this. So you can review the plans and details there. My contact information is on all of the presentations and also the concept selection letter. So if you have any, oh, and I see your comment, Commissioner Donahue. We'll hold on for that. But yeah, any comments about the project can be sent directly to me or Maureen as well.
Keyboard is giving me a hard time, so I was challenged by just typing a single line. So, I was just curious, with previous projects like this, have you experienced any major inconveniences for the residents that we should be aware of, or that we might want to bring out to them, just in general?
I wouldn't say any major inconveniences. I just think with any project, you might have to get used to new traffic patterns or something new being on your roadway and being able to navigate around that. But we've seen some pretty successful improvements with these projects. Just to the north of this corridor with the other Minnesota Avenue Southeast project, West Priority project, we've seen a reduction in crashes and speeding. And I think the only thing that came up around that was people getting used to what was included in that project and the roadway changes. But outside of that, I don't think we've had any major inconveniences.
Got it. You mean the obstacle course that you have to go through? It feels like an obstacle course.
I mean, relating to the flex post, I think some people do feel like that, but we've seen it successfully slow people down. So, and we did take that in consideration for this project of doing more painted medians and things like that. And we made sure to coordinate with VIMS to make sure this doesn't impact any of their operations as well.
So, and this starts summer of this year. And what's the did I miss the anticipated completion?
So construction would start in 2026. We're hoping
Okay.
to have design completed this year, and we'd issue another notice of intent at 65% plans, which we're expecting sometime this summer.
And is this a project, or and pardon me for my ignorance, but are we at a stage where if anybody had, like if a resident had feedback that you guys are open to hearing that, or are we past that stage? Sorry for.
As we move through the design process, we could make some tweaks for small changes, but nothing major. TSIs do get incorporated into this project, so like we have already captured a lot of them, but if there's anything new that we're missing, we can try to get those included in the design phase. But it's normally something small, nothing major.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other comments or questions? All right. If not, then I think we can conclude this meeting. We will post this presentation to the project website. Once again, my information is on the website and the concept selection letter. So if you have any comments or feedback, you can send them directly to me and we will keep you all updated as we move through the design phase. Thank you. Evening.
Thank you all.